Hello and welcome to Geek Speak with Envision IT, a podcast for business leaders and technology experts that like to stay on top of the latest security news and listen to interviews with insightful industry leaders. I'm Bill Crane, Chief Stakeholder Architect and CTO at Envision IT. Let's get started. Today we want to spend a little more time on the topic of security. This time a little bit different, not necessarily security from the end user standpoint, but from the IT administrator standpoint. And what we're doing with all these remote PCs that we have now from people working at home. Traditionally we have devices, they're connected to your corporate network. They're able to talk to the domain controllers back and forth and pass security information along. But what happens when that doesn't exist anymore? Now, you certainly could deploy VPNs, have users VPN into the network, and then the systems can talk to each other that way. But as we know from previous conversations, VPNs absolutely have their downsides. You're taking potentially an untrusted PC or other device and connecting that into your corporate network. There's a lot of risk around that. Also, from an end user standpoint, VPNs are often challenging to set up and to use, and hard to troubleshoot that way. So we certainly like the idea of going VPN-less. But what does that cause for challenges for administrating that PC? So there's a few things that we just want to cover today. One of the first things that came up, several months into this pandemic that we're in here in 2020, is there's a concept of a computer password. Windows servers have this, Windows PCs have this, and the idea is it's kind of behind the scenes, and the computer will basically authenticate with the domain, and then on occasion it will change its password. So for Windows 10, that default is 30 days. So basically every 30 days, the computer checks in with the domain controller and says, hey, I want to change my password. It happens. Again, the user doesn't know any of this is happening, but nice secure way to keep that PC updated. So what happens when that PC is no longer able to talk to the domain controller? And if you've been around Windows, desktop administration or server administration for a while, you have certainly run into challenges where that password gets out of sync, and then you almost lose trust of the domain, and then logins are in challenge. The good news here is that is a client-side function. So if the client is unable to talk to the domain controller, it just simply keeps trying. You'll keep trying to find the domain controller, and if it doesn't, no big deal. It just keeps its current password. So that's good. Eventually, once the user does come into the network, the PC will check in, see it found the domain controller, and then change its password. So that's great news. So some other things that you will miss out on by not having a PC on the network is group policy updates. Group policies, as we know, are incredibly powerful. You can push all sorts of policies, and Microsoft has incredible number of templates. Basically anything you can do through the GUI, you could do through a policy. So they're very important, very powerful. But how do computers get updates when they're not connected to the network? So often what we see is other tools in place. Remote management tools, certainly other tools. And what we're seeing a lot of is actually mobile device management. Certainly something we've used for a while now for our iPhones or Android devices. Now we're seeing those are really helpful tools to have on your Windows 10 PCs as well. So you can push down policies, you can push down applications, and so on. And these are becoming really powerful for these remote PCs. Here at Envision, we certainly use the mobile device management, but then we also use our remote management tools that we use to manage our own PCs and our customer PCs. And that's become really important because you can't use GPOs, for example, to push out the latest log shipper or antivirus tools. So it's important to have tools in place where you can do that. And those tools, by the way, have other side effects, remote management as far as helping users, screen sharing and so on. Another thing they're doing is helping with patching as well. So patching can be a real challenge. If you had deployed, some sort of internal patch management solution that assumes computers are going to be connected to the network, that can be a real challenge right now. So it's important to have systems in place and tools in place that allow those PCs just to directly connect to the internet, download your approved updates, and then apply those and then force reboots. And then, something that we found incredibly important is, the ability to verify that those patches are truly being installed. We had found cases where the patch management system says everything's great, everything's up to date and patched. Yet then we follow up basically in an audit process with our vulnerability management tools and find, sure enough, maybe there's a PC that just misreported a patch being installed. So you can identify those things and remediate. They're really, really important with all the malware that's out there today. They're absolutely trying to take advantage of vulnerabilities left open by unpatched machines. So really, really important. The other thing we'll mention is just around data and where things are being stored now. One of the good items that have come out of the work from home is people are taking advantage of some of the great tools out there. Microsoft has Teams and OneDrive, so people are definitely taking advantage of that. The only thing we want to mention there is, as you're storing more and more data out there, just think about what it would take to recover. So if there's ransomware or employee accidentally deletes a whole folder full of information, how do you get that back, right? So Microsoft absolutely will back up that data, and it's mainly for their purpose. If they have a system failure, they can recover. But think about if you have an employee leave and maybe you delete their data accidentally, and now 30 days has gone by or 60 days. How do you get that back? So think about how you back up and protect all that SaaS data as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If you have any questions or you have future topics you'd like us to cover, please connect with us via the link in the show notes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time on Geek Speak with Envision IT.